say thank you first to the Rotary Club of Philadelphia for affording us the opportunity to share our incredible and separate journeys from Liberia to the U.S. As Bill said, my name is Yassah Lavelah, and I am a registered nurse from Liberia and an incoming member of the Rotary Club of Philadelphia. Next slide, Sandra. So in my country, when you hear the name Harvard, it's associated with the elites and world presidents. And as a girl who was born from a poor family and grew up in a slum community, the word Harvard has never crossed my mind any day. But being born in a poor family or from a slum community didn't stop me from pursuing higher education at one of the world's prestigious universities, or pursuing a better life for myself, my family, and my country. So if you look at this slide, you see a picture here. This is my home where I was born, where I grew up. And next was my journey in 2014 and my journey to the most prestigious university. Next slide, Samuel. So coming from a war-torn country, a country where more than 250,000 people were killed, I was just 4 years, like Lieutenant Saitie, when the Liberian Civil War started. And my mom and dad decided to flee to nearby Ivory Coast to seek refuge. And while in that process, we got separated from our dad. So my mom was left with 11 children, both biological and non-biological, to take care of. But my mom decided to serve the rebels at the time, so she conducted deliveries for the wives of the soldiers to ensure that none of us got recruited as child soldiers or sleep with hunger. So we were able to move to nearby Ivory Coast just with our mom alone, and we stayed there until the civil crisis subsided, the first civil war. Next, Samir. If you look at this picture, you see my mom here, and I call her my superhero because I still have fresh memories in my mind when we had to wake up at night and sit outside because there was a woman in labor, and our house, our makeshift house, was the go-to destination. Even if women could afford to go to the nearby facility, which they could not afford anyways. So we had to sit outside many nights when women were in labor. They came and we had to be outside. And my mom would ensure that the babies were safely delivered and the mom stayed alive. And I became a helpmeet to my mom. My caregiving career started at a very tender age because I had to help my mom in the process. Because there was no one to help her. So I was like her assistant. So I was giving all of the materials she needed. And there were instances my mom could not save the lives of women because in the middle of the night where women had bleeding issues, there were no ambulance to refer them. We never had any even medication to give to these women. Growing up and witnessing these things, I said, I will do something about it. I made a solemn pledge to do something about it. Next slide, Samir. If you look at this slide, this is our makeshift structure. My mom conducted deliveries in this structure before and after the civil crisis. And then she later on decided to open what we call in the US pharmacy. We call it drugstore in Liberia because it was just something small where she sold medications. At the same time, she still conducted deliveries in the drugstore. And after the drugstore, finally today, we were able to build a small maternity clinic that now serves over 30,000 women in one of the biggest communities in Liberia called Painesville. Next slide, Samir. And since we started operating that clinic, I'm proud to say we've never had any maternal deaths. That's something I'm proud to say because that was something that I decided, that I told myself I would do something about to change. So I graduated in 2009 from nursing school, and I joined forces with my mother to establish this clinic. And this clinic has served a lot of women and children, and is still serving a lot of them today. And we have over 3,000 safe deliveries. Next slide, Samir. So I served in that clinic alongside my mother until 2014. So while serving in the clinic, I had to take on another job because what we had could not sustain the clinic, and it could not help to pay other staff who were helping us. So I took on another job with a hospital called ELW Hospital that was run by Samaritan's Purse. So salaries I was making from that facility was used to take care of the clinic. In 2014, I got selected as a Mandela Washington Fellow, which was a flagship program of the US State Department, and it was under President Barack Obama at that time. And that experience was a life-changing experience for me. I was able to network with other young African leaders. I was able to sit on the table one-on-one with former President Obama and his wife. And it was a life-changing moment for me. I saw things from a different perspective. However, I left in the US until the Ebola crisis got serious in my country. My mother got exposed after conducting 2 deliveries. And then I told myself, the US is somewhere that I want to be, but at this point, Liberia needs me. And at the time, President Obama has just announced that everyone in the US from Africa, from Guinea, Liberia, and countries that were affected by Ebola, they were giving them temporary permit to work and stay in the US. However, I turned down that offer because Liberia needed me at the time. So I came back to Liberia, even though my parents were all worried. My mom said, don't come. My brother told me, don't go. I came back and I worked in a Ebola treatment unit at night as a treatment unit nurse. And in the day, I worked as a health educator, picking up bodies from the streets until finally we were able to work with Notre Dame, which was my university I was assigned to doing the fellowship. They sent us a container full of personal protective equipment, which we never had. And those materials were very, very important to us because we were able to use them to defeat Ebola, even though we lost some of our colleagues during the crisis. Next slide, Samuel. After the Ebola crisis, we had to launch the nonprofit because the maternal death rate in Liberia is so high, as you can see, and we wanted to reach more women. So we launched a nonprofit to empower women through the reduction of maternal and infant death. Next slide, Samuel. And since we launched the nonprofit in 2018, we've been able to provide nutritional food packages for over 400 women. Malnutrition is a major problem in Liberia, both for women and children. So our food packages have been of great help to pregnant women and mothers. Next slide. We've also distributed menstrual hygiene products to over 1,500 schoolgirls and also conducted menstrual hygiene education and sex education. In Liberia, menstruation and sex is a taboo to be discussed publicly, so we try to educate girls on these things. Next slide. We've also been able to distribute birthday and postpartum kits to mothers. In Liberia, if a woman does not have these essentials that are listed here, she will not be accepted in the hospital to give birth because the hospitals cannot even afford these things. So our program has been able to mobilize and ask for donations and produce these kits for over 200 women, and we are still distributing these kits to women. Next. We've also been able to train, integrate, and match 50 traditional midwives with pregnant women through our Lavelah program. Lavelah in my native language means companionship, because in Liberia, women respect the traditional midwives and they prefer seeking care from the traditional midwife. So we utilize this opportunity to match them up to pregnant women to ensure that women can give birth in the health facilities. Next slide, Samuel. And then in 2016, I got this opportunity after all the hurdles to apply to Harvard. Honestly, I was doubtful. I had doubt that I was never going to get accepted because it is, for me, I was from a poor family and Harvard was not for me. But I mounted the courage, I applied and I got accepted. However, when I got accepted, I could not enroll that year due to financial difficulties. So I had to defer my admission to the next school year. Luckily for me, I got a full scholarship from Harvard to do my program, my 2 years program. And I moved to the US in 2018 with my son. I did a research on maternal and child health. And we were the COVID graduates in 2020, May. We were part of the COVID graduates. And after I graduated, I decided that, Samuel, next slide, that I will give back to the US because I am here. I have to give back to the US. And I'm currently working on a program that will focus on maternal death among African-American women because the US is also experiencing similar problems like Liberia and every part of the world. And as a developed country, it's something to also look at. So we will be focusing on postpartum recovery for our program in the US to ensure that women can have a very good recovery in their postpartum periods. Next slide. I'll turn this over to Lieutenant Saitie and we'll conclude at the end.
So as Yassah said, during the Liberian Civil War, we both were just 4 years old. So as for me, my mom had to escape with us to nearby Ivory Coast to seek refuge and also to prevent us from being recruited by child soldiers. So while we're in Ivory Coast, life was very difficult. My mom had to go to the market and buy food and make like mini dishes to sell to the community to enable her to put food on the table for us and also to pay our tuition. So we lived in Ivory Coast from 1992 up until 2002. And when we thought we were just comfortable and found a new home, another civil war broke up. The head of state at the time, General Rabagay, was killed and his body was left on the streets on national television. That spiked panic throughout the country. And then again, we had to run from the Ivory Coast to nearby Guinea. We walked 45 miles to the border. It's like walking from Philadelphia Airport to Ewing County, New Jersey. So it was a very difficult journey. So when we got to the border, we were tired, hungry, dehydrated, and our feet were sore, and we could no longer continue the journey. Luckily for us, the United Nations was available, and it took us to our next destination. So this was our final destination, where the United Nations took us. This is Camp Learning. As you can see from the picture, I mean, some of you are probably wondering, do people really live in those little things? As a matter of fact, where I live on this camp is just a few blocks away from where you are looking at. So we actually live in these makeshift huts and tents, and food supplies was provided as a form of ration on a monthly basis. So this place is only 20 miles away from the Sahara Desert in the middle of a very deep forest. There was no electricity, and tropical diseases were raging havoc in the camp. Many people died from curable diseases like meningitis. As a matter of fact, a close friend of mine died during that process. And at the end of 2003, more than 100 people had died from infectious diseases. So even though we had challenges of combating infectious diseases and hunger and stuff, but that didn't deter us from pursuing education. So as you can see from this picture, this is what our schoolhouse looked like. I mean, contrary to students here in the United States where they were privileged to have computers and nice facilities, laboratories to do research, look at this thing. This is something that was made out of plastic. The roof is made out of plastic, and you just have some plain wooden made chairs or desks to sit on. There weren't enough space in the classroom to sit. As you can see, some people are even standing. So this is the kind of condition that we had to learn under. And most of the time, we didn't even have textbooks. Textbooks were outdated, and some of the teachers were not even qualified. So this is how we lived and learned on the camp. So in 2004, as part of the effort to curb the war on terror, President George W. Bush then passed a resolution to help disadvantaged women in Africa. And my family happened to be a beneficiary of that resolution that was passed. And in 2005, we were granted asylum to the United States of America. So we arrived in East Lansing, Michigan in 2005. And even though we're in the land of opportunity, but there are still some challenges. At the time, I had just turned 19 and I had to be the breadwinner for my family because my mom was unable to work and my sister was also combating some illness. So I had to work 45 hours, more than 45 hours per week, sometimes 45 to 50 hours per week, The minimum wage then was $5.25 per hour. And imagine how many hours you have to work to pay a rent of like $650. But that didn't deter me from going to school. So I did that and also went to school full-time. And despite of all that challenges, I made the National Dean's List in 2008. And because of that, I was accepted to Michigan State University in the fall of 2008. While at the university, I was actively engaged in biochemical research. And during the time, I earned 2 university research awards and 1 national award through the American Society of Plant Biochemists. In 2011, I completed my BSc with a double major in biochemistry and molecular biology and genomics and molecular genetics. And I co-authored a scientific publication in 2011. So why am I saying all this? If you just take a step back to the previous slides, this was a child who had no hope, lost in the middle of a forest, no electricity, no educational facility, no laboratory, did not even know what the term biochemistry meant. But here am I, in Michigan State, doing research and now publishing a scientific paper. So after graduation, I decided to give back to my country, the country that provided me so much. I joined the United States Air Force Reserves in 2013. I completed 4 tours and I went through the rigorous process of commissioning the United States Air Force. So there were thousands and thousands of applicants for only 5 spots. And in 2019, I was one out of the very few candidates selected out of the pool of 1,000 applicants to commission in the United States Air Force. So serving in the Air Force has provided me with a lot of opportunity to learn and how to serve my community. And one of the things that struck me the most here in the United States is that sometimes veterans have to wait long hours in line to achieve medical service or even to get a prescription medication. I mean, imagine a healthy veteran like myself having to wait in line for hours. What about disabled veterans? They face even much more greater challenges of getting their medical help or medical needs. So what I've decided here in the United States, after completing my active duty tour with the military, I'm thinking on establishing a mobile clinical pharmacy for disabled and homeless veterans. And what this is going to provide is that it's going to help homeless veterans to get their medication on a timely basis and to manage disease states like diabetes, hypertension, PTSD, which is very prevalent among the veteran population. And also what this was doing is that it will provide medication therapy management services. And some of you are probably wondering, what does that mean? And this is something that was created by the CDC and the Department of Health to enable patients to be actively involved in healthcare. So for many of you, you go to the pharmacy, you get the medication, you go home. Who calls you to ask you, hey, the medication you got here for headache, is it working? How is the headache now? So what this service is going to do is that it's going to enable pharmacists or doctors or pharmacists to engage with the patient and have a conversation with the patient and also ensure that the medication that was prescribed to this patient is actually working. And this will be very helpful to the veteran population because they do not have access to these services. And overall, what this is going to do, or I'm hoping to do, is that it's going to cut down the wait time for veterans to get medical service. So this is an open idea. This is something I've been thinking about. More research needs to be done and also legal aspects need to be assessed. But this is an open invitation. Anybody who is willing to give advices, recommendations, I will gladly accept it. So moving forward, back in Liberia, having experienced the plight of infectious diseases in a refugee camp and also watching the Ebola crisis in 2014, I want to build an infectious disease clinic that will be comprised of a diagnostic laboratory and a clinical pharmacy. And what this is going to do is that it's going to help disadvantaged population. Since the Ebola crisis in Liberia, there hasn't been any infectious disease clinic. You would think like after a crisis like that, people would be thinking like, okay, something needs to be done, but there's none. So what I hope to achieve is that by creating this facility, disadvantaged people will be able to get the services they need. And also this is something that is out there. This is something that needs more research, materials, equipment, ideas, legal aspects need to be assessed. And this is also an invitation. I would gladly appreciate or accept any input, recommendation, help, whatsoever. Yes, sir.
So, we are moving forward together since Sam and I we met. And this time around, we are hoping to build a health village. And what this health village is going to be, it's going to be inclusive of a maternity village and an infectious disease unit, as Samuel rightly said. So in the maternity village, because when I did my research at Harvard, my research was done in Liberia, and we found out that there is not a facility dedicated just to that, where women can have options of giving birth, where women can give birth with, in the presence of their partner with all of the support they need. So this maternity village will be inclusive of somewhere where women can give birth with their partners being there with all of the support they need. And we will have the infectious disease unit on the other side. Before Lieutenant Saitie comes, I just want to say again, thanks to the Rotary Club for this opportunity to share our experiences with you. And I will turn it over to Lieutenant Saitie to close it up.
So yes, with all these experiences that we had and how we navigated our way through a very difficult journey and coming here to the United States, we hope to inspire young people here in America. And no matter who you are, where you come from, America is still the place to succeed. So thank you for the opportunity, and thanks to the Rotary Club for giving us the time to present this to you. Thank you.
Does the group have any questions for Yassah or Samuel?
I was curious how you two met.
So I'll come in first. So Sammy and I were in Ivory Coast together. Even though we're not close, we're not buddy. He was more closer to my brother than me. But we were in the refugee camps together in Ivory Coast. And then he then following me, supporting my work in Liberia, donating to our cause until when I was graduating. And then he's like, oh, congratulations. And that was how we started to talk again. We got back together.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. Really wonderful that you're partnering up together now to do some great work. That's exciting.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Well, maybe it's just a suggestion. I have been to 2 hospitals, one in Fiji and one in Nepal, that the Seventh-day Adventists helped to set up in these countries. And I am just wondering if maybe, you know, something like they might be able, you know, I don't know if they want to get in touch with them, that, you know, they could help set up this lab in Liberia.
Oh, absolutely. This is something we would definitely like to do. Like, as I said, this is open. It's an open invitation. This is not, you know, we are looking for help from everywhere. We can't do it all by ourselves. We don't even have the penny in the bank to do that. But it's an open invitation, and we will gladly accept any donation, you know, education, training, what have you. But thank you very much for bringing it up.
If you want to get in touch with them, I might have, you know, a contact with them, you know, that you might be able to, you know, at the first step, you know, to take the first step into, you know, contact with them, establishing a relationship with them.
Okay, yeah, so definitely I can get the contact information, and then maybe we can go from there.
Perfect.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, hi guys. That's truly an amazing story, and I don't even have the words to express how great you both have been and amazing, and just the experiences you've been through is just something we can't even possibly imagine. So I congratulate you on how far you've both come. You've both done amazing things, and you're still doing amazing things. Have you been in touch with Rotary International or any other aspects of Rotary? Because they have humanitarian organizations and contacts all over the world. And I would assume they'd have contacts to help you guys move forward in your, and just the mobile van for the veterans is just such an amazing idea. I really commend you on that.
Yes, we haven't had, Yassah, do you want to respond to anything?
Yeah, so we are new to Rotary, even though we have family who are part of Rotary. So we would love to have ways that we can get in touch with Rotary International. We appreciate it because we're actually new to Rotary.
Well, you know, at last night's orientation, when we reviewed the Rotary.org website, that homepage at the very top right had Club Locator. And because we have a numerous amount of clubs in Africa, and we work cooperatively with Rotary clubs in Kenya, Uganda, and other locations, I suggest you go to that Rotary.org website, go to Club Locator on where it says About Rotary, and that opens up the home screen, and you'll find Locate Rotary Clubs at the upper right-hand side. Just type in Ivory Coast or whichever country. You're still involved with the Ivory Coast?
Liberia.
Liberia now.
Liberia now. I know we have a lot of Rotary clubs in Liberia, and you know, perhaps a couple of us can work with you to find those clubs.
Thank you.
Some of us will be in touch with you.
Thank you.
Yassah and Samuel, this was really an impressive presentation, and you're doing God's work, just like I'm trying to do with Jamaica. And I'll pray that all goes well and some opportunities will open up for you so you can continue the journey and the mission that you're on.
Amen.
Really impressive. And I'm really proud of both of you.